What is going on, everybody? This is the Cover Band Confidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson, and it's just me this week. We previously talked about getting a friend of mine who is in A&R to talk to us about landing endorsements, but unfortunately we ran into a scheduling issue, so that is going to have to be pushed back to some other time. It will still happen, so don't worry about that. So it's just going to be me this week. Not a whole lot to catch you up on. I ended up doing another solo acoustic gig and working on all of the technical things around the request system and the landing page and the QR code, and all of that stuff is working pretty well. Nothing new to necessarily report, but the end result does seem to be that tips are better and engagement is up and people are generally happy. So I'll continue to use this system, kind of dial it in and, figure out where we go from there. So in lieu of having a topic or a guest, I wanted to talk about the podcast itself, kind of where we are, where we came from, and, more importantly, where we're going. So let's talk about some numbers. So as of the recording of this episode, we've released 153 full episodes of the podcast. In 2020, we had 30,018 plays and downloads. That's 30,000 and then 18 on top of 30,000. And as of today, we've done 11,026 plays and downloads in 2021. Moving over to YouTube, we have released 111 YouTube videos. I know a lot of you guys aren't necessarily following us on YouTube, but we are doing a lot of content over there, so you should definitely check that out. We have 430 subscribers. We've had 49,717 views so far. 17,854 of those have happened in 2021 as well. Our biggest video is the one about the Quad Cortex, which you guys have definitely heard. It has 10,379 views, which is pretty incredible considering it's over half of the views we've already gotten this year. On Facebook, we have 651 followers of the podcast page. We have over 1,000 members in the podcast group. On Instagram, we have 3,063 followers. And as far as Twitter goes, we're on it. We're not really putting a lot of energy into it, but we're out there, we're posting stuff, and we've got some followers. And it's just not one of the things that we're putting a ton of effort in right at the moment. So after starting this a few years ago and coming to the point where we are now, Dan and I have been thinking a lot about what do we do next. As far as we can tell, people are enjoying what we're doing, and we don't want to necessarily change a bunch of things up. But at this stage, we've been doing this long enough to know what works and what doesn't work. And I kind of feel like we've gotten comfortable in the formatting and the things that we're offering, and it's probably time to start looking at ways that we can make things better, change things up, or maybe offer some additional features for people who are looking for them. So I want to go ahead and start by saying the podcast isn't going anywhere. Every single week, we'll still put out an episode and we'll try to make it as relevant and as helpful as we possibly can. But thinking about the situation, every single town in almost every country on the planet has bands like us. And if that's the case, then our listenership should reflect that. And I feel like we've kind of gotten to a certain level and we're comfortable there, but I feel like we could be reaching a lot more people. So we want to think about ways that we can do that, ways that we can engage with more people, ways that we can provide more value, ways that we can help you guys go further faster. So we're kind of toying around with a bunch of different ideas. The primary thing that we've been discussing is Patreon. Now, we already have a Patreon account, and we've got tiers of different things, but most of the people who are supporting us on Patreon are following us at the kind of lower end level. So we're trying to come up with ways that we could potentially add more value at those lower levels, and we're thinking about, ways that we can incentivize people to support us so that we can do more things with the podcast. I've got a lot of really fun ideas that, we're just kind of constrained by. One of them would be just the excuse to get in the same room as Dan and do an episode in person. That's still something that 153 episodes in we haven't done yet. So finding ways for the podcast to generate a little bit of revenue would allow us to do some fun stuff that I think you guys would really enjoy. We're trying to think of ways that we can add exclusive content to certain Patreon tiers. Thinking of creative ways that we can engage with you guys and offer exclusive content, like recording the before and after conversations we have when we're doing the podcast and putting those up as a tier, maybe offering episodes a week early so that people who want to get ahead of things can, get the episodes a week early while we set up a little bit of a buffer of episodes to keep, things interesting and keep them moving, when things like Dan has to go to the beach, or I have to go on a vacation, or work stuff, or any other situation that might pop up. I mean, we're both working dads with families, and, sometimes things happen. And this episode is a great example. Your interview has to reschedule, and you got to make something happen. So it would have been cool to have a couple episodes in the can in order to keep things moving for you guys. We've also talked about going back and doing the consultations. We review your band episodes, or maybe offering that as a feature on the Patreon, and maybe doing like a private Slack or Discord, so that people who may want more access or want to have a direct line with us can do that. Right now, if you send us an email, you're going to get a response back. We're in that email account, and we're in all of our social media answering your questions all the time. And right now, that's okay. It's not unsustainable, but I'm worried that at some point it might be. So we might need to find creative ways to make sure that we're getting the information that we want to get out to as many people as possible, and doing it as effectively as we possibly can. And doing it the best way that we can, so that you guys feel like you're getting what you need out of the content, and for us to not be completely overextended. And to be perfectly honest, the process of making this podcast and doing the social media posts and the YouTube content has just been something that I personally have realized that I love. I really enjoy creating content, and creating content for this audience. And I don't think it's any mystery to anybody who has tuned into this podcast long enough that, content creation is something that I'd like to pursue as a profession. And as of right now, don't quite have the means to go about doing that. But if that is, in fact, a path forward, I want to be able to do that for you guys, and to be a consultant and an encourager and a person who you can rely on for good information that's going to help you make more money doing what you love doing. And that's what I want to do too. So we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We're not looking to, we're not trying to get super huge like Cover Band Central is. We still want to be a curated, small community of like-minded people looking for the best ways to brand and market their projects. So that part isn't going anywhere. But I still think that there is a lot of growth potential in this community, and it's only going to benefit you guys in the long run if we have more people who are invested in this community providing good ideas, so that everybody can take those and run with it. So all the feedback we've gotten about the QR codes and the landing page have been really amazing. Every single day I'm getting DMs or emails or just messages on my personal Instagram about people who have tried the things that we have suggested, and it's working really, really well for them. But I didn't come up with that idea. There were people in my market doing this already, and as soon as we started talking about best practices and how to make things work better, it immediately added a ton of value to a very large group of players, and I don't see why we can't do that on an absolutely global scale. So in conclusion, what I want more than anything out of this is for it to continue to grow, and for this community to continue to grow, and for people to make connections and to just share in your successes. What that looks like now is for the people who love this podcast and love the content that we're creating to share it with their networks. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't left a 5-star rating and review for the podcast, please go ahead and do that. If there was a video that we released that was really beneficial to you, share it on social media. If you're listening to the podcast, take a screenshot of it when you're listening to it on your phone. Tag the show, tag me, tag Dan, and put it in your Instagram story. All of these are really easy ways to let people know about all of the stuff that we've already got going on, and to slowly build the community in an organic way. Podcasts and YouTube channels always talk a lot about having a viral moment. Well, the fact of the matter is that for the past 3 years, we've consistently been releasing content. So whether that viral event ever happens or not, we have all of this content out there that's just sitting out on the internet for free, just waiting for somebody to find it. And for that to happen organically, we just need you guys to help spread the word. I know this may feel a little bit like a challenge or like a sales pitch, and this isn't normally, the episodes that we put out. But since the opportunity presented itself, I figured it was probably a good opportunity to just discuss this stuff, kind of throw it out there and just see what you guys think. We always love to hear from you guys. You can email us at coverbandconfidential@gmail.com, or you can DM us on our socials. We're here for you. What we really want is to do that for a larger community and to help you grow and to help make your bands better. So next week, we'll go back to normal and we'll have the podcast that you guys are kind of accustomed to. But I wanted to take the opportunity to thank each and every person who's listening to this right now. This podcast has changed my life. It has introduced me to an amazing group of people. It provided a creative outlet during a year where I was worried there wasn't going to be any. And I've learned so much about content creation and social media marketing that I kind of want it to be my job, which if you had asked me about 3 years ago, I would have laughed pretty hard, pretty solidly, for sure. So with that being said, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We don't take a single listener for granted. We really appreciate each and every one of you. I'll go ahead and spare you the bumper, considering I spent the entire episode talking about this stuff. So I will go ahead and sign off. From Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson. You've been listening to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, episode 153. Have an awesome week.